My name is Corey Wild. I'm a wildlife adventurer conservationist with a passion for dangerous and exotic animal species. Welcome to Komodo country. For as long as I can remember, I've been catching, studying and working with wildlife.
Awesome, look at all these spectacled flying foxes up here.
From the cute and cuddly to the highly venomous and the massive man-eaters. My quest to discover new species and thirst for adventure has led me through jungles, caves, underwater realms, from deserts to alpine peaks, savannas and mangrove habitats, on 4 continents in over 12 countries around the world.
Well, elephants have been through here.
My mission is to explore, track down, catch and educate about exotic species. Here we are in search of the one-horned rhino to promote Mother Nature and inspire humans to reconnect to it.
Here he is, it's all the commotion here, this is the big boy.
Also highlighting positive conservation organisations and their projects along the way. I believe creating a better understanding of our natural world will in future help to protect it.
He's only small, but he's a little bit interesting.
Get ready to venture into the wild, wild world. Alrighty, here we are. We've just come down to Secret Squirrel crabbing spot number 18. We've got our crab pot here and we've got some cool mesh entrances. Now these mud crabs are super strong, so once they go in you want to make sure that they can't find their way out of there. We've also got the custom bait bag. Believe it or not, the mud crabs will rip holes in that as well and rip it out. Always put your bait right on the bottom and right in the middle, and we've wired it in hard as well so they can't get out. I'm just going to sneak this in over there. The tide's coming in for another 2 hours and then tide will come up. Hopefully tonight all the crabs will come out and we'll get some goodies in here. But just got to be careful too because there's big lizards in here as well. Or just squirreling in here. Good thing about cages make it much harder for the crocodiles to get the bait. I think this is why they call them mud crabs. Could have something to do with it. So I'm up away from the water. Crocs can't get us here, but there's another spot there. What's going to happen is the tide's going to come right up from about 1 metre to 7 metres. So we'll leave that one there in the mud and the shade, and then we'll hopefully come back and get some crabs out of that later. Alrighty, we've got some Pandanus here, and what we're going to do is make a little bit of cordage out of this stuff. Pandanus is quite useful in Australia, particularly with indigenous and bush food and bush tucker. There are about 35 species of Pandanus in Australia, over 500 different species in the world, and it's a little bit prickly, but it's got some cool uses, the Pandanus. We're going to make some cordage out of this one, and we're going to tie Johnny up with that. Stay tuned to find out what that's about. Alrighty, g'day, welcome to Awesome Animals TV. Thanks for joining us, guys. Today we're looking at some Pandanus here. We're going to make some bushcraft out of this particular stuff. There are about 35 species of Pandanus in Australia, pretty much across the top end. It's a useful plant. It's used in bushcraft, so we'll show you a little bit of that. It's also used in bush tucker. Some species grow large fruits on them that have different seed pods, and you can eat those. The husk that is around it, which attracts the animals. to grab the seed and disperse it into different areas. Now it's a little bit spiky, this stuff, but it is really good to use. The green stuff is what we want to use. The brown stuff also has a really good use as well. The brown stuff here, actually, when the wet season comes, it rains here for months and months at a time. So it's very hard to start a fire. Inside of this brown stuff, there are actually little air pockets, and it stays dry on the inside. So as a fire starter, this is really good stuff to use. So we've got our green stuff. Let's go and make some bushcraft. So just on the side here, there's a row of spikes. So either side, row of spikes, we skin those off. And there's also a row of spikes on the spine there, on the bottom of the leaf. These ones, probably better off just skinning them off. So first thing, get rid of your spines, get rid of that. Trees in the tropics, particularly bamboo and coconut palms and pandanus, so handy. You can do so many things with the species of flora up here. Actually, if you've got bamboo and you also have coconut palms, you can build an entire house and even a lot of cutlery and bowls and kitchenware out of the coconuts. Now the grain runs down the leaf, as you can see. You can actually, once you split it, you can actually do this by hand. A lot of the indigenous back in the day, they would use oyster shells. Well, one of the best cutting tools up in the north is the pearl shell. So we've got rid of our spikes and we've split a couple of fronds like that, and what we want to end up is with 3 pieces, and they need to be around the sort of the same thickness is a good idea. This guy's a little bit large. Helps if your knife's sharper than mine too at the moment. Alrighty, so we've got our 3 pieces there. Now what we want to do is we want to join our 3 pieces together, like so. Then we can start our cordage plait. So basically what we're going to do, probably make it a little bit thinner, and we'll get our 3 pieces together, and then we'll plait it from there, and we'll make our cordage that we need. Right, left, keep the tail in the middle. Right, left. We're just doing a basic plait. Now you want to work with this stuff when it's green before it dries. Pretty much all your bushcraft woods and things that you do with bamboo, etc. Pandanus or palm leaves, palm fronds. You want to do it when it's green and flexible. A good idea also is to not do any real serious bends or turns in the knots. Like really sharp knots may stress crack it. So you're better off doing nice looping knots or the plaiting here. You can probably do a 4 plait if you wanted to, make it a bit stronger. But for what we're going to do, this will work really, really well. So right over left, left over right, right over left. And what we're doing is we're moving the one from the outside into the middle, the one from the other opposite side into the middle, and same again, opposite side into the middle, opposite side into the middle, keep that one in the middle, opposite side into the middle, and that's a basic 3 plait. Now I'm not great at it. There's going to be if there's any particularly Islander girls watching this, they'll be laughing. And that's going to work out perfectly. Also, if you're going to do long ones, you sit down and you make a little loop through there and you hook that over your toe. If you want to sit down and do it, basically a little loop, hook it over your toe, basically just sit there, and then you can pull it tight as well, a lot tighter, and make it a lot firmer. Alrighty, here we are, we're back on the low tide. Have a look at the difference. This is yesterday where I threw the pot in. It was, you know, almost knee deep. Have a look down here. She's gone out about 7 metres. So with a bit of luck, I might get a big fat crab in here. Yes! Beauty! Look at that bad boy there. That's what we came for. Woohoo! Big orange claws on him. Probably heard all the noise in the background. That's this thing. Zeusy, what are you doing? Look, what's that? It's a crab. Look, big crab. Alright, you go get some shade, mate. We'll get this guy out of here. Ooh, he's fiery too. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this crab out, obviously. He's going to be dinner. And we will probably put the pot back in and see if we can get another one. Now, interesting thing with some of these crabs as well, they can be left clawed or right clawed. Shake him out, pin him down, grab him like that, just get him. Be strong with him too, because he'll mess you up if he gets hold of you. But this one's right clawed. You can see that claw there, look at the size of it, compared to the other one. So that's his battle claw. He also might have been in a battle and grown this one back. There we go, what a beauty. Beautiful. So we've got these crabs that live in here full time basically, then we've got the other ones that are out in the mangroves and the oceans, closer to the ocean, and they'll be that bluey purple colour. They can also change the tinges of their colour as they slough their skin, their exoskeleton, which they do as they grow, because he's an arthropod, so he'll slough his shell. And sometimes it's depending on the moon as well, and also the growth rates. But yeah, that's a beauty. Have a look at that. Mate, I've got to tell you, it's pretty wild in these mangroves. Now the crocodiles and occasional snakes don't really bother me. As long as you're keeping an eye out and staying safe away from the water's edge with the crocs, you'll be fine. But what does worry me is the bloody midges and mosquitoes. And today, I've got the buffalo camo from Ridgeline, New Zealand on. And this is a breathable long sleeve camo shirt. And this is the best shirt for particularly in the mangroves. It's breathable, it's got good camo, and if it gets damp, it stays damp for a long period of time, which also keeps you cool, and of course it keeps the midges and the mosquitoes off. Also got the Polaroid glasses, which help out obviously for looking into the water to see the fish, to see the crabs, also to see the crocodiles. So long sleeves and Polaroids are definitely a go for when you're heading into these mangrove conditions. Alright, now we've got our nice piece of cordage here. It's time to tie our Mr. Mud Crab. How you going, Johnny? Johnny Mud Crab? Have a look at him, he's a beauty, isn't he? So, got our cordage. Now the trick with these guys is actually putting your foot on them. So if you get them by the back, they can't get you. But also if you've got your foot on top of him like this, so we go from on top of the shell, like so, then we go around the front, over the top of the moving claw. And we just slowly pull that in. They're very strong, these crabs, and he'd break your fingers, this guy. He could break your fingers, lots of power. Like so, bring him in nice and tight. And then we go under his swimmers at the back here. It's a little bit tricky. Now we flip him up. Flip him up like so. Around his flippers, swimmers there. And you'll have yourself one tied mud crab. Now there's a few really good benefits of this. Obviously he's safe, he can't break your fingers, but also when we put him in the bucket or the esky with the other crabs, he's not going to smash them all up. There's our cordage tied crab. Alrighty, there's our lovely tied mud crab ready to go into the pot. But before we do that, what I'll do is stick him in the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes. That's the most humane way to put them to sleep, and then you can drop them in the pot or the steamer or straight on top of the open coals after that. And it looks like dinner's on. Alright, here we are, freshwater crocodile country. This water here is crystal clear. There's also some red-faced turtles in here and some water monitors, Mertens water monitors. We're in North Australia in the Territory. There's wildlife everywhere. Beautiful water, crystal clear. Let's go and see what we can find. I think it might be time to put the mask on. So this water just has a constant flow. It's coming from an underground hot spring, and the water's quite warm. It's about 26 degrees. Beautiful. Pretty amazing the amount of freshwater aquatic plants are in here. We've got some, one of my favourites actually, the big lotus water lilies over here. And the stems of those you can eat, and the seeds you can eat as well, the seed pods. Bit of bush tucker. I've also got some Pandanus up here as well. That's a bush tucker as well, that'll have nuts on it at the right time of year. Like a really hard pine nut that you can roast. And then we've got our reeds here, cottontail reeds. Those ones you can pull the stem out of the main part and you can eat that as well. So just plant life here, there's heaps of bush tucker. We saw some rainbow fish as well before. Let's have a look down here. So this is one of the lotus lilies that I was telling you about. And before they become a flower, the seed pods, you can actually eat those. And the stem down here under the water. That's good bush tucker too. Now we've got a Melaleuca swamp all through here, these paper barks. And the indigenous have used these for thousands of years as well. You cut the bark off the tree and wrap your fish or whatever it is you may be cooking in there, and an underground cooking style, a bit like a hangi. Up North Queensland they call it a cut murray, and basically cook all of your food wrapped up in that paper bark. Throw a few banana leaves in it as well for a bit of extra flavour. But the Melaleucas in general, basically, what they do is they filter everything out as well. Their root systems are really thick and they filter a lot of the water, so they definitely add to the clarity as well. Got some spiders here too. Argiopes, zipper spiders. And they're keeping all of the mosquitoes away. A few over the back there. Alrighty, here we are in search for the Mertens water monitor, and this spot here looks like a sensational habitat, but we've got to be careful because it looks a bit crocky as well. You can see there's tons of fish down here. Lots of rainbow fish. And there's some rainbow perch in there as well. So that would be an awesome spot. It'd be quite easy for the water goannas to catch a feed in there. They can swim around under the water just like a crocodile and catch fish. And what they do is they sit up on these trees above the water, and as soon as they're worried or a predator comes along, they dive off into the water. What they'll do is they'll go underwater for a while. They can stay underwater for like 4 or 5 minutes, and then they will just stick their heads up out of the water and try and rely on their camouflage. And I can see there's one just down here now, so we're going to try and get a couple of shots of him. Well, what do you reckon? Is it time to go and have a look what's down here? Let's go. Awesome, Merton's water monitor. Let's go and see what else we can find. Okay, so this is the male cycad here, and this is the equivalent to a Jurassic flower. So that produces pollen. Now what happens is all the insects will come over, collect that pollen, feed off this plant. The cycad will actually release hormones, chemicals to attract those insects that will come along and pick up that pollen. So the pollen's like sperm. The insects will then transfer that pollen over to the female plant over here. So they'll come over, they'll bring that pollen over, they'll be attracted to the female, which is also releasing chemicals. They'll land up here, and that sperm or pollen will be dropped off here. Then what actually happens then, the female starts forming the fruit or the seed pod. So the fruit here with the seed inside. Then of course some of our seeds and fruits are attractive to animals, which will then eat them and do the seed dispersal, enabling these female trees to disperse all of their seeds or their kids all around this area. Here's something that's interesting as well, look at this. That's where a buffalo's been rubbing his horns, or it could be a scrub bull up on the side of the tree there. Aha! Welcome to Jurassic Park. Check this place out. We're in the northern part of the Northern Territory, and I just pulled over to check this spot out. Amazing. It is really like Jurassic Park. We've got all these old world plants here, the cycads, and we've got a big termite mound here as well. It's probably going to end up eating all of that tree. But these awesome cycads. These guys have been around since the Jurassic period, and they're amazing. Now the old world plants basically have a male and a female, so the male will pollinate the female, whereas a lot of the new world plants, they're actually hermaphrodites, so they will pollinate themselves. But these guys here, you need a male plant and you need a female plant. So when the male plant flowers, what actually happens is they change the chemicals and the pheromones, and the insects will come along and they will take the pollen from the flower, and then the male will close off that, and then they will transfer it over to the female. So this one here, it's got the fruits, be female. Now the cycads here, some species they say take about a year to grow an inch, and some species can live for hundreds and hundreds of years. We've got another one over here, and this one has some seed pods on it. Now you can see we've had a fire through here as well. Fires are pretty common up in northern Australia, particularly in the wet season. A lot of them are lit by lightning strikes, and you can see these cycads here, they basically have a fireproof trunk. Once they get fully established and they're a sort of a decent size, they'll have a fireproof trunk like this one here. Some species as well, the fire actually helps with the germination of the seeds. Some seed pods are actually cracked open by extreme heat. So this one here is a bit different. You can see this is a sand palm. He has not done as well with the fire conditions, but the cycads do well. So as I was saying before, some species take about a year to grow an inch. Look at this guy here. That one's nearly 3 meters tall, so That one there could be a few hundred years old quite easily. Other species to get to that size would definitely take hundreds of years. What an awesome spot. Another interesting fact is that some species of insects will only cross-pollinate some species of flora, so they have symbiotic relationships. Here's another interesting tree here as well. This is a stringy bark tree, and this is the one that the indigenous would cut with a flint stone. They would cut around here like so. They would climb up the tree, cut around the top there, and then pull off the entire piece of bark as one piece. Used for building materials, used for painting, and sometimes also used for kayaks or little boats to get around through the billabongs. So interesting, all these little things in nature, everything's connected in the avatar of things somehow, some way. Here we go, this is where one of those stringy barks has been cut. Cut around here, climb up the tree, cut it around there, and then cut it up the grain, peel it back, and pull it off as one big piece. And then that can be used for building materials, used for like coolamans for carrying things. Can also be used for a bark canoe. Now back in the day, the indigenous would use canty, or they would use like obsidian, quartz, chip it off and make a sharp edge. Use that sharp edge as a flintstone axe. Basically flintstone, they make arrowheads out of it. You can make axe heads out of it as well, and spear tips. There's a buffalo over here. Let's go and say g'day. Might be the son of Charlie. He's got his nose up in the air. What is that? What is that thing? Trying to get a photo. Get up a bit closer for a photo. But generally they're scared. 2 legs. Oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay, don't run away. Generally they're scared of us and they just take off, but however, can be a bit dodgy as well. You've got to make sure you've got a good tree to hide behind, because they can get a bit defensive. If they feel threatened, they might have a bit of a go at you, the old buffalo. But if they put their head up like this, they tilt their head and they got their nose up and they start like trotting or prancing around, that's when you got to look out. Hey big fella, where you going? Come back, say hello. Come on. That's a big buffalo. Oh well, I guess he didn't want to hang around for the camera shot. That might have been the one from Crocodile Dundee. Hey buddy, what's going on? Hey, what's going on? It's okay. What's going on? Oh, check that out. That is a young wild bull buffalo. And he's just sniffing the air. It's okay, mate. Isn't he a beauty? Hey buddy, you going now, are you? Where you going? Okay, see you later. Nice to meet you. Hey, it's okay. It's funny how they kind of run sideways like that. They're like, oh, what's that? It's bloody Corey. Get out of here. See you, mate. So he's just cruising around out here in the bush, grazing. Now, the water buffalo are an introduced species to Australia, so unfortunately they're not great for our environment. They're introduced in the early days to provide meat up in these northern areas. The water buffalo obviously from Southeast Asia, and over there they're basically water buffalo are used in just about all horticulture, farming, and a lot of the Southeast Asian people have working relationships with the water buffalo. They're their pets and they do a lot of the hard work for them. But in Australia, unfortunately, they're introduced species and they do devastate the habitat quite a bit. So, but still, nevertheless, it's always cool to see wild animals out in the wild. I wouldn't recommend getting too close because they can be dangerous, particularly if it's a larger bull. Put their head down like that and they start hitting the ground, or their nose up in the wind and then head down. You might want to look for the nearest tree if you can't escape to a vehicle. So don't do what I do. Check them out from a safe distance. So you can see these awesome palms here. Obviously fires come through here a long time ago and they're quite lucky to survive. Palms are awesome, but they make a lot of mess and that's a lot of fire fuel. But definitely spectacular, especially when the wind comes through. Interesting thing with this charcoal here is it detoxifies and pulls out impurities. So if you actually had a stomach problem, giardia, depending on which country you're from, how it's pronounced, upset stomach, diarrhea, you actually shave some of this charcoal off, shave it off, put it into your water bottle, probably a good teaspoon or two, drink that down, and hopefully that will get rid of any stomach infections or impurities that you have, bacteria in your stomach. Particularly really handy to know if you're traveling around other countries and you're not used to the food there as well. Particularly some places in Southeast Asia. So charcoal, put it on your travelers list. You can get charcoal tablets as well from your pharmacist.
seen me. Hey guys, check this out. Now, I was trying to sneak up on the opposite side of the tree because if you hide from them and they don't maintain direct eye contact, they'll sometimes just try and hide. But look at this spectacular lizard, Chlamydosaurus kingii. Now that's Greek for cloaked lizard, also known as a frilly or the frill-neck lizard in Australia. He's one of the agama species of lizards, so one of the dragons. He's one of the largest as well. Gets to 85 or 90 centimetres total length. And this guy is semi-arboreal. He's one of the largest agama species in Australia. Second largest is probably the eastern water dragon, which also gets quite big. Now you can see that iconic frill there. Come around this side. He's got that big frill, and what they do is he's got cartilage which runs down from his jaw system, and that flares that frill right out. One of the character dinosaurs in Jurassic Park was taken off of this lizard, the big frill that comes out. So they're semi-arboreal, they have a territory, and what he does is he protects his territory. Now a lot of the agamas or dragon lizards, they'll sit up high like this and they'll watch out over their territory. They have great eyesight, and what they do is they keep an eye out on what's going on in their territory. He can also use this height as a vantage point to see insects or little lizards or beetles cruising along the ground. He'll come down, smash those, climb back up to his little podium. Another good thing is up in the trees as well, there's lots of cicadas, particularly this time of year. Now he comes out in the wet season and you can hear that hissing noise. That's his get away, stay away from me. And they come out in the wet season, and what they'll do is they'll have territorial battles. They'll fight each other, the males will fight for territory, and they also communicate to each other using sign language, these lizards. So what they'll do is they'll do little hand signals. They'll do little hand signals like that. They'll do head bobs, they'll do push-ups, and they will also hiss. And actually, right behind us, there's another dragon lizard on that tree just over there, little Gilbert dragon, and he's got his head just sticking out just around the corner. He's watching us as well. He's another type of dragon lizard that's here. So around 70 species of agamas or dragon lizards in Australia. This guy is a little lizard with a massive attitude. You can see he'll smack you with his tail if he can. He'll also flare up, and if you approach him and he's on the ground, he'll jump at you. He'll even run up your leg. So little lizard with a big attitude, and obviously flaring right out like that to look scary. So they can lay over a dozen eggs, usually around 10 to 12. And all of the agamas, they'll dig a hole and they'll lay the eggs in the hole there. And then what they'll do is they'll cover it up and stop goannas and feral pigs and foxes picking up the scent. And then about sort of 2 to 3 months, depending on the species, all of the little dragon lizards will hatch out. When they're babies, they have a frill. They're a smaller replica version of this guy here. Now in the wet season, these lizards will come down to the ground and they will eat whatever's around. When the first flying termites come out and they're everywhere, they'll come down and they'll eat hundreds and hundreds of those. In the dry season, they go right up in the trees and they'll either hide in a hollow log or they'll hide up in the trees up there. They just disappear. People don't see them because they rarely come to the ground. What he'll do is he'll cloak that cloak right down and he'll become part of the tree, and very awesome camouflage. You can see he's got those two vampire teeth on the top and the bottom there. I wouldn't like to get tagged by this guy. So they can lay over a dozen eggs, usually around 10 to 12. And all of the agamas, they'll dig a hole and they'll lay the eggs in the hole there. And then what they'll do is they'll cover it up and stop goannas and feral pigs and foxes picking up the scent. And then about sort of 2 to 3 months, depending on the species, all of the little dragon lizards will hatch out. When they're babies, they have a frill. They're a smaller replica version of this guy here. Okay, so now we might just get out of his territory before he decides to jump on my shoulder and try and bite my ear off. Yes, one of Australia's most iconic species. See you, buddy. Enjoy your wet season and your breeding. Let's go and see what else we can find.
Righty, here we are with my crazy hat. It's about 40 degrees, so I'm going to head right out here into the background. Tide's right out, nice and muddy. got Andrew and Zeus. We're going to go track down a couple of big fat mud crabs. So, time to get muddy and get amongst it. Stop for a snack on the way. Beautiful. Rock oysters. Believe it or not, oysters, you got to sneak up on them. Put too much vibration on, they really clamp down onto the rock. Open them up a little bit, cut that muscle out. Beautiful. Muscle close, that's probably one of the tastier parts. Another thing you want to do as well is you don't want to go from the lip or the front of the oyster, you want to go from the back. You find the little gap at the back here, line up your knife, then hit it. You go from the front of the shell, that all just flakes away. It makes it a lot harder to get in. Delicioso! Sit still. There you go. Good camera. There's not a lot in them. They're really delicious. But we've got to go get some crabs. Otherwise I'll sit here and eat these all day. The tide here rises about 7 metres in about 8 hours, so won't be long. There's tide out here, which is that dirty brown water, right here. Time to go get some crabs. Oh no! Where's the crab? Where's the crab? Where's the crab? Get him! Here, boy. Come on. Crocodiles in there. There's one here, hiding in the rocks. nippy too. Oi, oi, oi. Oi. Get around behind him. Oh, look at that one. What's the crab? It's the crab. Haha. That's not a bad little crabby. Now you can see he's got the small triangle, the male. Female will have the big wide plate there. Now these guys live in here. When the tide comes in, they'll eat any dead fish, anything like that. Nice blue colours. They actually take years to get to this size. So there he is, Johnny Mud Crab. Look at him in the threat pose, nice and wide. Whoa! He's a bit of a goer, this fella. Nearly got the camera. You get too close, that's what they do. 2 claws at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Whoa! Look at him. See what he's trying to do there? It's another one of his escape techniques. He'll use these little flippers, bury into the sand and disappear. So if you come in flat, push him down. This one's a bit more fiery than the other one, that's for sure. Catch him, cook him. I reckon we chuck this one on the coals later. Have a look at this. This is what we've got to look out for in the tropics. This is a Cryonex fleckeri and it's a box jellyfish. Now, it's not a big one. A big one will get about the size of a 2-litre ice cream container, and they've got these really toxic, stinging tentacles that they troll around behind them. So what he does is he swims around in the shallows. These will extend out to about this sort of length. And then what they do is they have little protein sensors on them, nematocytes they're called, and as soon as he touches a fish, boom, it fires off this microscopic little dart, which is full of neurotoxic venom and stuns that fish. Now the reason he is so toxic is because he needs to stun that prey as quick as possible, and then it can't get away. So I don't recommend anybody trying to grab one of these or holding one. They're quite toxic, and if that got you, you'd be in a lot of pain. Now the first aid for this guy is vinegar. In the tropics, if you get a box jellyfish, or also the little irrigangi, which are only about the size of my fingernail, the first aid is vinegar, and vinegar neutralises those stinging cells. But you can see he's actually got 4 of these, 4 sets which hold the tentacles there, and they are retractable. So in the tropics around November right through till May. Now the water here is actually really flat and really smooth. They don't like it when it's choppy and wavy, but they're actually, they've got light sensitive eyes inside there. They have simple eyes, and they're also attracted to little splashes. If the water's nice and flat and smooth and there's little splashes going on, these guys will actually detect that and swim over towards it. So he's extending those tentacles out there. I'm going to pop him back in the drink. And there he is, the box jellyfish. So tropical waters. Also keep in mind that these guys are right up through Southeast Asia as well. So you want to check and do a bit of research. Even if you're going over to Bali and swimming around everywhere, or you're going to the Philippines or wherever it may be, have a check, do some research, Google it. All right, pop this guy back in the water then. There he goes. So I forgot to mention that the box jellyfish love coming out when the water really heats up. At the moment the water's about 28 degrees. Like a hot bath, you wouldn't want to go swimming anyway. Very hard to see. G'day, g'day, and welcome back to Awesome Animals TV. Check out these beauties.
the Scalia mud crabs from Australia. Now this is Miss Jenny Scalia and this is Mr. Buck Scalia. And the male grows larger than the female, and you can see he's got a thinner anal plate there than the female, than the Jenny does. Hers is a lot wider than the male's. Now what these guys do is in the mating season now around the summertime, the male will find the female, he'll connect to the back of her, and he'll actually carry her around and protect her for up to 4 days. And then what she'll do is she'll slough her exoskeleton, slough her skin off, and then he'll flip her over, deposit a sperm package into there. And then what happens is it takes 3 or 4 days for her shell to harden up again. So he'll flip her back over, he's deposited that sperm, and then he'll carry her around and actually protect her for the next 3 or 4 days. So when they have a soft shell, like most arthropods after they've sloughed, they're vulnerable. And mud crabs, of course, are carnivorous. So if there's a soft shell crab getting around, it's going to get eaten. And if it's not going to get eaten by another crab, anything else in the ocean, and humans love soft shell crabs as well. If you've ever been to a sushi restaurant, soft shell crab is absolutely delicious. But these guys, they have the swimmers. So they're from the swimmer family of crabs. You can see those little swimmers on the back there. And their lifespan is 3 to 4 years. There are 2 species in Australia. These ones are the giant or green mud crabs. And a large one will get to about 24 centimeters across the shell there, and even up to 2.5, maybe even 3 kilos. They get really big. And a beautiful eating crab, obviously, as well. Now, lots of people also want to know about preparing them to eat and how to cook them and all that sort of stuff. Generally, a mud crab of this size, we'll put him in the freezer for 30 minutes. We don't really want the meat to freeze, but we'll put him in the freezer for 30 minutes till he stops moving, and then we'll take the carapace off and clean out all the top inside the shell there. If you boil this crab, you're going to boil a larger one like this with the big thick claws for about 12 to 14 minutes. If we're steaming them as well, we're going to steam them about 15 to 20 minutes. If we're cooking them over the coals, we're going to cook them until their shell turns red on both sides, and generally that only takes about 5 minutes a side. It's quite quick. So female, large anal plate, male has the smaller anal plate. So with the breeding cycle, what happens is the female she'll drop that anal plate down and she'll use it as a flap, and she'll dig a hole and she'll deposit all of her eggs. Now, believe it or not, 2,000 to 5,000 eggs they can have. And what she'll do is, because she's dug a little hole, she's pulled them all together and she'll gather them up with these flippers here, and she will basically attach them to the inside of that anal flap there. Then what she'll do is she'll make her way out into the ocean. Now in the summertime, when it's 28 to 30 degrees the water temperature, she'll go right out into the ocean and she will release those eggs, and they will start as zooplankton. And when the eggs actually hatch out, they're a little zoea, and it actually isn't even a crab. It looks a bit more like a tadpole slash triops. And then that'll molt again in a few more days. Once a zoe is sloughed, it'll turn into a megalopa. And then from there, it'll slough a couple more times and actually turn into a really small baby mud crab. And they'll make their way back into the mangrove areas. They generally mature in the first year at about the size of 9 to 10 centimeters across the carapace there. Now there are 2 different species. This is the green mud crab, and we also have the brown mud crab, which is found across from Broome, right across to the western part of the Gulf of Carpentaria. And then the green crab, this one, is found right across the entire top over into Cairns, even right down into New South Wales. Now WA, they have different sizes for different species because the red crabs don't grow quite as big as these guys. So the green mud crab will get to about 23 centimeters and up to 2.5 kilos, and the brown mud crab, they only get to about 15 centimeters, about 1 kilo. So 2 different species. In WA, they have a different size limit for the different species. So the crabs living in the mangroves might have a hole in there, and they can come out at night time while the tide's coming in, travel up to 500 meters looking for food. They have 360-degree vision with these eyes here. They've also got little antennae at the front. Woo! And they're quite quick with their claws. Now they'll eat mangrove worms, they'll eat mollusks, they'll eat smaller crabs, They'll eat any other carrion that's floating around or dead fish, and they will also crack open some shells of some mollusks. And a crab with a shell width of this can basically put about the equivalent, particularly a buck, of about 20 to 30 kilos of crushing pressure onto a prey item that it wants to crush up and eat. So you definitely don't want to get tagged by one of these guys. So the giant green mud crab, what they actually have is they have a few extra spikes over here on the elbows and also on the inside, whereas the browns have a little bit less spiky on the arms and they don't grow quite as big. The predators of the mud crabs are me, definitely. I love eating these guys. And also crocodiles love eating mud crabs, sharks love eating mud crabs, stingrays love eating crabs. So they do have lots of predators, and that's why they hide in the mangroves. Awesome, so there we go, the mud crab scalia. Check this out, guys. This is the northern silver-backed mouse spider. This one is the male. The female doesn't have the silver on the back, and she doesn't do a lot of wandering. They generally stay in their burrows at night. This time of year it's mating time, so the male comes out and he starts cruising around looking for a mate. Check it out, guys. This is the male northern mouse spider, also known as Missulina purinosa. Now the males have this silvery colour on the back there, and the females are a little bit bigger, and they generally stay in their burrows. So thanks for joining us on Awesome Animals TV. We've had a bit of interest in a lot of our spider videos, so I thought I'd do a couple more. And in Australia we've got lots of naughty spiders, and everyone, they're quite easy to mix up, so I thought I'd do a bit of a video here and show you guys a few of the differences. Generally, if it's shiny like this guy here with not much hair on the thorax there, the front part, and a big bulgy abdomen, all jet black and smooth, it's either a mouse spider, which there are 8 species. It could be a trapdoor. Trapdoors, there are 17 different species. And it could be a funnel web as well. Funnel webs, there are over 40 different species. So we're up in the northern parts of Australia at the moment. This one here is the northern mouse spider. Now they're found in Darwin, around Derby as well, and they're also found over in near Cairns occasionally. This time of year the males will wander around looking for a mate, and they will find the burrows of the females and they will mate with them. Now, all of the mouse spiders have burrows. Some of the trapdoors, believe it or not, they don't actually have a trap door in their burrow. Now, the mouse spider gets his name probably because of the hole, and mice, it's one of those common names, as you know, don't really make a whole lot of sense. But this guy's the male, particularly after the first rains here as well. In the start of the wet season, we'll start getting a lot of these guys wandering around. So if you don't want them venturing into your home, it's probably best to keep your screen doors closed. Now you can see the huge fangs on this spider at the front there, and when they get cranky they'll rear up just like a funnel web. Trapdoors do it, and the mouse spiders do it as well. Now the venom, they say, is not super toxic like a funnel web's. However, trapdoor spiders and mouse spiders, and definitely funnel web spiders. However, if you get bitten by one, you definitely want to apply the funnel web spider first aid, which is a smart bandage pressure immobilization technique. But I had a little bit of a talk with this guy earlier, had a little whisper in his ear. Said, mate, you're going to be on YouTube, Awesome Animals TV, be a good boy, don't bite me, and it'll all be good. And later on I'm going to release this spider back out into the bush where he came from. I actually had about 4 in the house over the last few nights. So we've had a bit of rain up here, and that's when they like to come for a visit. Now they're not out to get you, they're not going to bite you, but if you do leave your clothes laying around or your shoes, they can accidentally come into contact with us and then they could bite you generally if they are pressed up against your skin. Now we'll see if we can get this guy to just rear up a little bit. He doesn't really want anything to do with me, he's not being aggressive. However, they can flare up quite well. So there we go, that's Missulina purinosa, the northern mouse spider. Thanks for joining us guys here at Awesome Animals TV. Make sure you hit subscribe, and if you like the channel, share a couple of our videos. Keep it wild, and I'll catch you next time.
Welcome to the Freshwater Fitness. Probably can't hear me because the microphone's going. G'day and welcome to the Freshwater Fitness River here in the Northern Territory. We're out in the boat, we're going to do some flicking for some barramundi, we might see some crocodiles, hopefully, and some other cool wildlife while we're out here. Alright, so in these fresh waters, a lot of the freshwater fish are mainly crepuscular, so early morning, sunset, sunrise is when they seem to come on the bite. That's when we get all the bugs moving around as well, landing on the water, and we get a lot of surface feeders. So I'm just using a little Preditech here. It's kind of a cool lure. Personally, I like the hard body lures that float. You can float them out of the snags if you've gone over something, you can float them out. He's got a big looking eye there as well, a couple trebles, and of course the rattling ball bearing in there, which stimulates, you know, the noise and the vibration, which tends to excite the fish. So, but this is a really awesome spot this time of night. Like, we can hear the cicadas in the background, the crickets, the frogs. You know, there's a bunch of cormorants in here as well. We'll get flying foxes, the fruit bats flying around soon as well. Another good thing to remember as well is if you find a fruiting fig tree, or you actually find a melaleuca which is in flower, all the insects come and they're attracted to that and they drop into the water, and that turns into a feeding station for the fish. And of course, if there's figs dropping into the water, particularly black brim, they love coming up and eating those fruits. So they love eating fruits as well as the insect, little shrimps that may be in the water as well. We can hear some Ross tree frogs in the background. All the frogs come out as well. Also, this time of night is really good to put a little popper on, and that mimics a frog or something swimming across the water. So let's have another cast and get into it. Hopefully we can get a couple in the boat for you. Alrighty, here we are in the Freshwater Fitness, the first fish in the boat. We're just doing some flicking today with some smaller lures, and this is the lovely black brim. Now they get about twice the size of this, and the male develops a big sort of hump on his forehead, and I reckon this one's probably a female, but that's not a bad eating size or pan size. Commonly known as the black brim, also known as a sooty grunter. They do make a bit of a grunting noise as well. So in this system here, we're looking at tarpon, black brim, barramundi, and a few other species. So I reckon this one's a female and should be a breeder. So what we'll do is we'll pop her back in here. Now, I'm not going to swim her because there are some rather large lizards around these parts. So we'll just drop them over the side. That was cool. Awesome. We just saw one of the resident crocodiles here, Crocodylus porosus, about a 7-foot salty or saltwater crocodile or Indo-Pacific crocodile, and they get up to about 6 meters. There's also another species in here called the Johnson River crocodile, Crocodylus johnstonii, and they're the freshwater crocodiles. There's a crocodile there, Crocodylus porosus. He's about a 6-foot salty, just up in the shallows here, chilling out. Awesome, that one's a freshwater crocodile or Johnson River crocodile. So we got both of Australia's species in here in this freshwater section of the river. And what happens is the Johnson River crocodiles, or the freshies, nighttime, time for them to get out of the water, because if the big salty sees him, he's going to have him for dinner. Sometimes when you're walking along the bank, you might notice a lot of freshwater crocodiles up on the bank at night time. That's a pretty good indication that there's a really big salty somewhere not too far away. Hope we can find him. One's a bit bigger. Wow, cool. Crocodiles. Oh, check out this beast down here. The giant frog from Australia. We're up in the Northern Territory and it's a hot night. We've come out, do a bit of spotlighting, and we found this beastie here. Have a look at him, it's about the size, almost close to the size of my fist. Now the females will get to about 11 centimetres. Well, one of the largest species of frogs in Australia. And what he's doing is he's sitting out here waiting for any prey items to come along. Now this frog will eat any other frogs, anything that's smaller than it. Spiders, maybe even take on a centipede or two as well. So basically eat anything they can get their mouths over. Now, they'll actually be underground for most of the year, and then they will come up when it rains. While they're underground, they're in a little cocoon, a little tomb, and what they do is they excrete body juices, and that will cover their body and seal it and stop them from drying out and dying. Then when the rain comes, they'll come to the top, have a big frog party, and lay lots of eggs. And the tadpoles actually get to about 7 centimetres, so quite a big tadpole for a big frog, obviously. Now this one's a cream colour, they can be a dark brown as well, and they can even be green. So green colours with a bit of brown. They're a really cool looking frog. In the mating season, when these frogs call to each other, they sing, communicate. These ones make a real wah-wah, 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 wah-wah sound. So with frogs, the female's generally larger than the male, and she produces all the eggs, obviously. Male's smaller, and when they mate, the male will be on the back of the female. Sometimes they'll be joined for a long time and cruising around together or swimming together as well. So as you can see, it's quite a robust frog, like most semi-phosphorial frogs. Frogs that live or spend time underneath the ground. These guys don't really have the webbed feet or the big sticky pads that the tree frogs have. These guys have got more separate toes, claws and digging apparatus. You can see the giant frog or round frog is quite easily distinguished by the two big ridges on his back, the big eyes and the triangle shaped head. You can see why he's called the round frog. He's quite round, isn't he? Now behind the eye there you can see a flap of skin, a fold of skin, which is hanging over his eardrum. Frogs are quite vocal and they have quite good hearing, and that's how they communicate to each other. You can see his skin glistening there as well. Frogs have the amazing ability to breathe through their skin, and they need to be moist all of the time. That's why they're primarily nocturnal or always being around water. And if there is no water available, like this guy, you'll have to burrow under the ground and escape the sun and the heat. So the giant frog is mainly up around Darwin. He will go over to Queensland a little bit, in the Gulf area, south of the Gulf a little bit, and a little bit over to the NT-WA border as well. But only in Northern Australia, and most of our frogs are up here. So tonight's perfect night. Let's go and see if we can find some more.
Check him out, he's an awesome specimen. He's probably about 4 foot long, juvenile. And he'd be out cruising around at night time now, hunting, looking for reptiles and frogs. It's the hotter part of the season and it's hot at night time, and a lot of our venomous snakes will become nocturnal over the summer months. And then of course after the rains, we get a lot of frogs coming out as well. So these guys are primarily reptile specialists, but they'll also eat frogs as well. They love lizards and they'll eat other snakes. He's also quite happy to eat other venomous snakes like brown snakes, particularly the western brown out here. But this bloke is actually from the black snake family, Cycads australis. Now brown snakes are from the Pseudonaga family, meaning false cobra. But this guy's venom, it has more hemotoxins rather than the neurotoxins that a lot of the brown snake family has. So he's from the black snake family, even though his name's the king brown. Now he's Australia's second largest species of venomous snake, growing to 2.5 metres. He's second only to the coastal taipan in size, and he's quite a common snake. But believe it or not, they're quite placid and they're very reluctant to bite, unless unfortunately you'd have one in a confined space where it can't move away from you. That's when they'll become more defensive and more bitey. But as you can see, he's just cruising around doing his own thing. He's not worried about trying to bite me or chase me or attack me or any of this sort of stuff. He's just cruising around out here in the bush, doing his thing. And I'm a couple metres away from him and I have absolutely nothing to worry about. What a beauty. The king brown. Another name for him also is the mulga snake, because he lives in the mulga country and we're actually surrounded by mulga trees right now, which is a species of acacia. There's another species as well, which is Cycads butleri. Haha, awesome stuff. King brown snake, the mulga. Let's go and see what else we can find.
Okay, here we are, all of us on another wildlife adventure in the toilet, believe it or not. Even in the toilet here, you might find something when you go for a flush. Dun, 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 dun. That's Kermit the Bog. He lives in the bogger. Good spot for him. Nice and cool, lots of fresh water. Leave the lid open. He comes out at night and eats all the huntsman spiders and all the other creepy crawlies that we don't want in our bathrooms. Kind of cool. Got some visitors. What are you guys doing out here? Hey? What's going on? What's going on out here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you guys waiting for the next episode of Awesome Animals TV? Is that what's going on? I think they're waiting for the next episode. Are you here for the talent? The casting call? Huh? Are you here for the casting? Yeah? You guys want to be on YouTube? Maybe? Up top there? Yes? No? I think they're here for the YouTube casting. Well, we will have to make an episode about you cockies. Yes. So, sulphur-crested cockatoos. That's what we call you guys. And the cool thing about the sulphur-crested cockatoos is they live for over 100 years. You're going to live for a long time. Bird's going to outlive me. It's probably older than me already. Hey mate. they're just chilling up here. Certain parts of northern Australia. Cockies are a bit like those guys up there. Seagulls. Don't tell them I said that. They're pretty clever as well. They can have a vocabulary of over a dozen words. So, they're quite good at mimicking and talking. Hello. Hello, Cocky. Now this guy here is a male. Male of the cockatoo species has a really dark eye. And the females will have a red eye or a lighter coloured eye. We can see this guy's got a really dark eye. Hey mate, you've got a dark eye, haven't you? Hey? What your mate's doing up there? Hey? Oh, Cocky! You guys out for trouble? Looking for trouble, aren't you? Hey, what's that? That camera? It's a camera. Can you eat it? No, you can't eat the camera. What's going on up there? The mohawk's out. Pretty awesome, the old cockatoos. So they live all around Australia in different areas. And they particularly love the big gum trees of a hollow log in the gum tree, and that's where they'll nest in the nesting season once a year around spring. And they lay 1 to 2 eggs usually. Hey, a couple eggs. And they probably will mate for life as well if they can. Do you get the feeling you're being watched? Just chilling. So the tide's gone out, and this is a good time to have a bit of a run through, have a look around, see if there's any crabs. If you're really lucky, you might get them out in this shallow water as well. And as long as it's really shallow and it's clear, got the Polaroids on as well, so I can see into the water. Because there's some big crocodiles that hang out here as well, obviously. Look at this. Humans leaving their rubbish everywhere. That's how long it's been since someone has been here. These are like 70s 4X pull top beer bottle from the 1970s. So go out camping, take your shit home with you, because it stays out in the bush for decades. Few mullet around here. Woo! So the mullet are here hiding in these shallows. Whoa, away from the big fish. So just down here, low tide, and there's a pretty good looking mud crab hole here. They got big claws too, so you got to be careful the way you do this. There's a couple little tricks to it, that's for sure. Oh. Got a little feisty one. Whoa! Nice big claws. Oh, nearly got me then. Nothing close. There we go. Have a look at that little ripper. Now that is a little buck, small triangle, and he's hiding down here. Now if that was a Jenny, there's a good chance there could be another male in here, but there's just one male by himself. So they're pretty good at defending themselves, as you can see. He can get right upside down almost. Bring his claws right back. But there are a couple of places he can't get you. So this guy is too small, so we'll pop him back in his little house. There we go, buddy. See you, mate. Oh, I was hoping for a big one. Oh well, let's go and see what else we can find. Just out in the mangroves looking for some mud crabs. A little mini herd of 5 Indonesian bantangs. Obviously in here eating some of the vegetation. These bantangs are kind of awesome because they're the only remaining wild Indonesian bullvines that were once introduced into Australia, and they're wild up here in the northern parts of the Northern Territory. And he was in here chewing up having a bit of a chew at the saplings. Kind of cool. So they've got horns just like a cow, bullvine, and they've got a big white patch on their rump. Sometimes that's all you see, the white ass running through the bush. So another good pointer actually when you're walking around, a lot of people are focused on the water's edge for crocodiles, staying back 3 or 4 meters from the water's edge. But also what a lot of people forget, that crocodiles will ambush from the side as well. So if there's bushes along the side, they could be sitting up under the bushes. Sometimes they'll even come down and just lay on the edge and sit there motionless and wait for passing prey items to walk between them and the water, and they grab them as well. So just remember that the crocodiles can be up on the land as well, not just on the water's edge. So just keep in mind the general rule of thumb. Wherever you find barramundi, you're probably going to find crocodiles, so keep an eye out for them, they're sneaky. Another thing I wanted to mention as well is the shells up here. We've got some cone shells. Don't pick up shells in the ocean in this area. This one in particular, the cone shell, there's a few different species of them. There's one called a geographus cone shell. There's a few different species of them. There's one cone shell, black and white, about that big. And it's a snail, and what it does is it uses this little proboscis, comes out of here, and what he's got a dart with a barb on it, and it's also hypodermic, connected to a venom gland. And they're a venomous sea snail, and they shoot the prey and it paralyzes the prey instantly. So with our jellyfish and our cone shells have quite toxic venom which paralyzes their prey straight away because it's a slow moving predator, and the prey items are fast moving, so they have really strong knockout toxins. So don't pick up shells in the ocean. Northern Australia, right across to Northern Australia, even around the world, in the tropics near the equator as well. Cone shells, and watch out for the jellyfish as well, so stay safe out there. Don't pick up shells. Alrighty, let's go and see what else we can find. G'day and welcome to Awesome Animals TV. Thanks for joining us on this adventure. We're going to go do a bit of fishing and catch some live bait. So, woo! Thanks for joining us. And let's go and see what we can find. Alright, check out these melaleucas, also known as the paper bark. This one's been fully termited out. That's how didgeridoos are made in Northern Australia, when the termites go through the bloodwood trees. Right, so we've got some melaleuca here. Now what you can do is take your knife out and cut a nice area of that, not too deep. The tree actually doesn't feel it if it's only sort of the first 4 or 5 mil of the paper bark. And this is what we wrap our fish in. And you'll make a hungy or a cut murray, wrap your fish up in that, dig a hole, get some ironstone or some rocks, build a fire, put your rocks on top, wrap your fish in this, put some more rocks on top of that, and then cover it over. You've got yourself a ground oven or a cut murray that you can see just comes off like paper. It's really amazing stuff. Some indigenous mobs in Northern Australia, they will actually make a frame, a round frame, and they'll use this paper bark to line that frame, and they'll make a little round boat. You can actually cruise across the water. And got some monkey, look at this. Monkey seat fungus, that's called. That one there, and there's a couple of big ones right up there. That monkey seat fungus is really good too. It's super hard. It's porous. Once you light that, you can carry your coal with you. It's a fire transporter, monkey seat fungus. Probably got a few other uses as well, but that's the one that I know of. So we're just cruising through here, having a look for some mullet. See what's going on in these backwaters. Alright, there's some good looking mullet down there. It's time to get the cast net, I reckon. Mullet are one of the favourite foods of a lot of predatory fish, so if we can get some of those and a bit of luck, we might catch a barramundi on a Saturday. Yeah! Down here, get the front side. Inside out like that. Grab the back edge, spin it around so you're opening it. Alright, Now mullet are pretty hardy. They live in these brackish waters here. They can live in freshwater or saltwater. They can also surface breathe. They're surface feeders. They can be quite hard to catch, these fish. Sometimes you get them on bread or dough. They're quite popular eating fish in southern parts of Australia and in the ocean as well, with the indigenous, the big diamond scaled mullet that you can spear off the beaches. This guy's got beautiful yellow fins. He's got red eyes, and that's a perfect size barramundi bait. So if we get about 15 of these, we'll be laughing. Yeah. Okay, so Andrew's got a different technique here. This is the over the shoulder technique, which can be a lot quicker. He bowls the rope up. He's got a couple of loops around his arm there as well. And he grabs the left hand side back part of the net and goes right around his shoulder. Then he grabs the inside and he's bunching up a fair bit of that in there, probably half the net, 2/3. And that's what he'll throw out to spread. Beautiful spread. Yes. Couple there. What's your take on this mullet gathering, Zeus? What do you reckon? Oh, you guys are killing it. Yeah, it's a good spot. It's nice and cool down there. Hey, what's going on? He's actually camera shy. How do you know? How do you know when the camera's on? You just get all shy. Oh. 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 Look at the hole he's dug down here. Good boy, get into it. Dig it up. So we're doing all right. We've got a few mullet now. Alrighty, so we've got a few nice mullet, a couple of good live baits. Now it's time to head to the next fishing spot. Let's go. The liveys are out. We've got a couple on floats. Might flick a lure as well, just for a bit of extra luck. Hopefully we should have a big barramundi on a Sunday for you shortly. Yeah, barramundi on a Tuesday. What'd you get him on?
Livey.
Livey?
Livey.
Hold him up. Welcome back to Sea Monsters. Here we are. I'm currently what we call getting smoked. Got a bit of a sea monster on here, I reckon. And he's at least 100 metres out there on my 7 kilo setup. Now this is a demonstration of what not to do. 7 kilo setup, a couple of 100 metres, a 50-pound braid. Now I haven't got a wire trace, because I didn't want to catch a shark, so it's not a shark. Whatever it is doesn't have massive teeth. Whew! But yeah, got me work cut out for me. About 20 minutes in, so stay tuned. Whoa, welcome back, here we are. About 30 minutes later, still fighting this sea monster. You really got to take your time with them, especially on this lighter gear. Like this rod could snap at any moment if I just put a little bit too much drag on it. Oh bugger, we lost that one. We've got an eye on it anyway. It was a big sleepy shark, and what happened is eventually his little rasping teeth made their way through that trace there. But I tell you what, That was a pretty epic fight. It's on for about an hour. Alright, let's rebait up, put another hook on, see what else we can catch.
Good work.
Skinny fella.
He got him.
Nice one.
Whee!
What's that one, about 700?
Decent.
Yeah, it's decent. Give you a run on that get up or what?
Yeah, sure did. You taking him up? Yep. Let's take him.
Alrighty. Here we go, we've got our mullet. We've got our little setup today. Nice light gear. We've got a wire trace. And I'm just going to free float this guy. I'm just going to put a little just behind the back of his neck there. A lot of time the barrel will come along, boom, grab him by the head, so that's what we want. So just in front of the head there, and I'm just going to flick him out just over here. On the high tide off the rocks, and a bit of luck, see how we go. Come to Papa. Queenie? Pull it quick. Oh, yeah! All right, we got one. Finally, we got snapped off about 3 times. Oh, I tell you what, selfie, extreme selfie, coming up. Well done. Little toothy friend here. Beautiful predatory tropical fish. And these guys dart through the water really super quick. And they love to eat smaller fish, that's for sure. Beautiful queenie that Andrew just caught and sees the beauty. They got a row of spikes along here, you got to be careful with them. Really serious spikes here. But they go alright, people do eat them. They're not a bad tropical fish, not as good as a saltwater barra, but there we go. Beautiful tropical northern predatory species. You can catch these guys on lures as well, and they get up and over a metre, the queenies. Awesome fish. G'day Vegemites and welcome back to Awesome Animals TV. Thanks for joining us once again. At the moment we're in the Northern Territory. It's Mango Madness silly season, November, also known as the build up, and everything here is going full tropo, including all of the animals. So we're out tonight looking to see what's out and about. Let's go and see what we can find. So just cruising around with the lead lenser on. I've got to tell you, these head torches are amazing, man. 300 looms, and I can actually spot eyes from a distance. And there's some over there. Let's go and have a look. This time of the year, coming up to the wet season, the green frogs really come out, and they're croaking all the time, calling out to each other, calling for mates. And it's unbelievable where you can find them. You can find them in your toilet, found them in downpipes, you can find them in your bathroom. Wherever there's a little bit of moisture, they're always around. Awesome, check out these beauties. The green tree frog. One of my favourite frogs. When I was a kid I used to have these, and they were really little when I got them, and then they matured to this age, and much to my parents' horror, once they matured they started croaking really loud in my bedroom. But these frogs actually live for up to 20 years, over 20 years, and I reckon that the smaller guy here is a male and the bigger one is a female. Once again, like most of the amphibians, the female is the larger one. The male's a bit smaller, and when they mate, the male sits on the female on her back. Now they're really cool frogs, beautiful green colour, awesome camouflage, and
the male would have been calling, and found his female. So this time of year, they're out there everywhere. It's one of the most widely distributed of one of the largest species of frogs in Australia. They're found in Northern Territory, they're found in WA, up in the tropics. They go into Queensland, right down the east coast, even down into New South Wales. And they live with people all the time. You can find them in your toilets. Some tourists come over here and they go up to the tropics and they flush the toilet, and much to their horror, they see all these little legs come out and the big frog plops into the toilet. But they are simply spectacular. Beautiful green colour, probably one of my favourite colours. And once again, these guys have a horizontal pupil. And they're primarily nocturnal. The daytime they'll live in downpipes. If they're in habitat near your house, they'll live in downpipes. They'll live in your toilet or bathroom, anywhere it's a little bit moist. But it's amazing that they can actually stay in a downpipe that's heated by the sun, and it can be like 30, 35 degrees and humid as, and they can just live in there quite easily. They get beautiful orange colours on the insides of their legs. They get to about 11 or 12 centimetres. His cousin, the white-lipped tree frog, which is found over in Cairns and Queensland, they get to 14 centimetres. They're a really big frog. And some species of the green tree frogs have actually been observed hanging out near bat caves, and as the bats fly out, as the sun sets in the twilight, they've been observed actually catching microbats and swallowing them whole. They get big enough to eat mice, they'll eat geckos, they'll probably eat other frogs. Generally amphibians and reptiles, they don't mind eating their nieces and nephews. So you can see these guys have got big subdigital lamella, which are the suction pads on their feet. They've got webbed back feet. They've got 5 on the back, 4 on the front, like most of our other frogs and toads. So in this area, there's actually over 33 described species of amphibians here in up near Darwin in the Northern Territory. And these ones are probably one of my favourite, the green frogs. Amazing. Lots of people have them as pets, and once again they can live over 20 years. When the green tree frog mates in November, December, the female will lay up to 2,000 eggs, which will float on top of the water. So when these frogs call out, they're really loud. They're like a brah, 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 brah. Really loud noise. And if they're in a downpipe in particular, it just amplifies. And I know people in Cairns and other places in Darwin, when it starts raining, sometimes they have to go out and catch all of the frogs and take them away so they can actually get some sleep because they're that noisy. In the mating season in November, December, the female can lay up to 2,000 eggs, and she'll make a bubble nest which will float on top of the water, and they can reach 12 centimetres when they're full grown, and that might take over 20 years. Pretty awesome frogs. Let's go and see what else we can find. An interesting thing about the green tree frogs is when the males start croaking, they actually are a bit like roosters. You'll have a male over there 50 metres away, he'll start croaking, then another one over in his territory, he'll start croaking, and then there'll be another one. And they just all sort of compete with each other and try and get the female's attention. The frogs that have the longest, deepest and loudest croaks are the ones that attract the females as a mate. frogs will eat anything they can swallow, and if they don't fit in their mouth, they're not shy about using their hands to shovel it in. This green tree frog's just caught a king cricket, and what they do is they shovel it into their mouths, hold it there, and then they'll use their eyes. They'll pull their eyes in, and that will crush their prey item inside their mouths. Because a lot of times they're catching things that will bite the inside of their mouth, and they'll grab them, crunch down on them, pull their eyes in, and they'll use a plate on the inside of the top ridge of their mouth to crush that prey item. Large specimens of these frogs have been observed eating bats, microbats, from out the front of bat caves at dusk as they fly out. There he goes down the hatch. Now you watch, he should pull his eyes right in. Come on, Kermit, you got it. There we go. It's really quite amazing what they can eat. They'll take on big spiders and even centipedes. And a lot of those other arthropods have super sharp fangs and venom. But the old green tree frog just smashes them down. A lot of our frogs have the amazing ability to change colours. When they're sitting on super green leaves, they turn super green. And if they're sitting on dirt where it's brown, they'll become brown as well. So they have this amazing ability to just camouflage into their natural environment. And that's what makes them stealth hunters. Another amazing thing about the green tree frogs and other tree frogs is they have the suction pads on the end of their fingers, the subdigital lamella. And what they are is millions and millions of microscopic little hairs that stick to everything. These frogs can climb branches, trees, leaves, even glass and plastic. They're amazing. They're like little green ninjas. See you, Kermit.
Sometimes we do bush tucker talks, sometimes we do tropical fruits, which I love. This is really an amazing species right here. This is something you don't get to see very often. And this is actually a dragon fruit flower. Have a look at that. What a spectacular specimen. Now, they're a climbing succulent. They're very similar to cactus. They're an old world plant. A lot of the cactuses and a lot of the succulents as well, once a year they'll actually flower, and a lot of the times they'll only open their flowers at night time, and then the pollination process will happen. And that pollination process, this flower can be pollinated by microbats. It can be also pollinated by little mammals, insects, and even the wind. So if we look inside this flower just here, you can see here all of the pollen here, all of that pollen, which is basically like sperm. And then we also have the little flower here. So what happens is that pollen will be transferred over to this little flower within inside the flower, and that will travel down. And inside the back of this flower is the ovary. And then once that pollen travels down, it will fertilize the ovary, and eventually this flower will close up, and eventually it'll turn into a really awesome dragon fruit, which is a delicious tropical fruit from Australasia. But what's really cool about them is they only actually flower for maybe 1-2 nights maximum, that these flowers will be open once a year. So this is a flower that's already been successfully pollinated, and you can see it's pulling back in to the start of the little baby dragon fruit there hanging off the main stem. Just wanted to share that with you because it's such a prehistoric looking beast of a flower. Let's go and see what else we can find. Have a look at this little guy. This is a Gilbert's dragon, and what he's doing is he's climbed up on the pole and he's just clamped on, and they'll actually sleep like that overnight. And the reason why he's come up a pole like this to sleep on something very slim is to keep away from snakes at night and other predators. So they'll just climb up onto a little thin branch, in this case it's a pole, and he'll sleep there for the night. The little Gilbert's dragons is from the agamid family. There's about 96 different species of them in Australia, and they range right up from the big 90 centimetre frill-necked lizards, and also the big water dragons on the east coast, right down to little tiny earless dragons, which are only about 3 inches long. So little Gilbert dragon, and they're egg layers. When they mate this time of year, what the female will do is she'll dig a little hole, she'll lay her eggs in there, and she'll cover it all over so no other predators can find her eggs. Cool.
Oh look, there's a snake over there. Have a look, he's just cruising along. Whoa, that's cool. Have a look at that bad boy. Awesome, this is Stegonotus. This is a slaty grey. And he's primarily nocturnal. He comes out at night time looking around for frogs. They also eat lizard eggs, and they're a shiny snake. And they generally come out after the rains. Now the males grow up to 1.4 metres, which is pretty big. It's a pretty big snake. Females only get to about 1 metre in length. He's got a creamy underbelly and he's got a pink tongue. Now these snakes are primarily terrestrial, on the ground most of the time. They can climb, however. All snakes can climb, except for sea snakes and file snakes. They're semi-phosphorial, so what he does during the day is he'll go under logs, under rocks, under thick leaf litter, and he'll sleep during the day when it's hot. And they'll come out at night time hunting around for the frogs. Now they also actually eat lizard eggs, which is interesting. So with that forked tongue, you can pick up the scent, and he'll cruise around and he'll find where the lizards have laid their eggs. Now there's a Gilbert's dragon up here, which is one of the agamas, and they lay clutches of 7 to 8 eggs, and this snake will source them out and eat them. I've also seen videos of these snakes actually trying to eat centipedes, which is really interesting because there's not many snakes in Australia that eat arthropods. He's a fairly common snake in the Northern Territory and also over in parts of Queensland. You have to be very careful because they look like Cryptophis, which is the eastern small-eyed snake, and the northern small-eyed snake, which also come out at night time. They're highly venomous and they look very similar to the slaty grey, and they have this beautiful sheen, shiny colour to them. They have a little bit more of a red tinge on the venter scales, but they only grow to 50 centimetres, whereas this guy will grow to 1.4 and a female will grow to about 1 metre. So if it's over 70, 80 centimetres, more than likely it's going to be a slaty grey. The slaty grey's distribution is around Darwin, right across the Gove. It's not found through the Gulf at all. It's found up Cape York Peninsula. The eastern small-eyed snake is found pretty much very close to Cairns, right down the east coast, right through New South Wales, and even just over the border into Victoria. Alright, have a look at these naughty little guys. Oh hello, there's a beetle on my shoulder. Have a look at these. Couple of cane toads, buffo. Woo. Now the cane toad is an introduced species to Australia, and they've been here for 83 years. Whoa. Now they're from South America, and they've been introduced to lots of other countries. They're an invasive species, and you can see this guy here, he's puffing himself right up, making himself look big, and also what that does is makes it very hard for snakes and other predators to swallow him. So 83 years, 3,000 of them were introduced or released up in Gordonvale up near Cairns, and they've spread right across northern Australia and as far down as Lake Macquarie in New South Wales. It actually only took them 5 years to travel from Cairns, about 2,000 k's south down to Brisbane. So they're highly adaptable. They can live in temperatures anywhere from 5 degrees up to 40 degrees. And they're a tough amphibian, super tough. I've found these guys in the middle of the day, stinking hot sun, 35 degrees, and they're sitting under a piece of tin. So they can definitely handle those extreme temperatures. So the cane toads basically eat anything that moves. Unfortunately, they've had massive amounts of devastation on our native wildlife species, particularly quolls that eat amphibians, lots of different types of snakes as well, and other reptiles, particularly monitor lizards and other amphibian eating reptiles as well. There's one species of snake called the freshwater keelback that can eat these guys, which is immune to their venom. Now, they do have a gland on the back of the head here, and what he can do is, if I try to swallow this toad or your dog tries to swallow it, he'll excrete that toxin, and it's a type of neurotoxin. It'll cause a lot of frothing. If your dog's been frothing at the mouth quite a bit, he might have swallowed a cane toad. I have seen dogs also swallow them and regurgitate them, and they just froth at the mouth for a while, and then they come good after that. But these toads are definitely capable of killing even small crocodiles. Right, so you can see this one's here. It's a bit of a different pattern on the back there compared to this one. He's got little small bumps on him. That's a male, and the female has got larger patches, and they've got interesting looking belly patterns as well. And these guys, the female, they're generally around 10 centimeters or 15 centimeters. The largest one recorded was 23 centimeters. And I personally have caught one myself that I was driving down the driveway and I thought it was a coconut, and I dodged it, and it was actually a really big toad. So a toad that big is nearly tapping out at about 1 kilo. So big. It's a big amphibian. When they're big like that as well, they can quite easily eat small mammals like mice. They'll eat other small frogs as well. They'll eat geckos. They'll eat just about anything that moves. And he's not a great climber. You can see a little bit of a webbing at the back there on the feet, but once again, he's not a climber. He's not like a tree frog, and his fingers and toes are separate. So he's got 4 on the front there, and he's got the 5 on the back. So Buffo marinus was the scientific name for him. So the new scientific Latin name for the cane toad is Rhinella marina. These toads can handle salinity, about 15% salinity, and that enables them to live near the mangroves as well. So they'll live near the mangroves, near the beach. They're highly adaptable, as I said before, extreme temperatures. He's making a bit of a noise there. What's that, mate? Yeah, it's Awesome Animals TV. You're going on YouTube. That's cool. Yeah. So what we'll do is I'll let this female go now that we've seen her. There we go, see you later. Now, unfortunately, the tadpoles, the eggs, and the little toadlets and the toads are poisonous. So now the difference between a poison and a venom's usually injected through fangs, or it could be delivered through a spike through a delivery system. Poison is ingested or absorbed, so they can be absorbed or ingested. Now, it's not true that if you touch a toad you get warts. That's not true. Also, I'm in no danger here. He's not going to fire out any venom or anything like that. However, if I did try and eat him, he would definitely start excreting some of that toxin, but they don't really shoot it out. They just sort of bleed it out of these glands here just behind his head. You can see that little puffy, almost looks like a jaw muscle. But he's all puffed up there, like a balloon. The female cane toad can breed twice a year, and they can lay up to 35,000 eggs, which is pretty extreme. The eggs are poisonous as well. Native fish won't eat them. The tadpoles are also poisonous, and the eggs can hatch within 72 hours, believe it or not. And a large female toad can produce 70,000 tadpoles in a year. Now, a lot of people don't like them. They don't want them on their properties. If you do want to clear your land of cane toads, the most humane way to do it is bag them up and put them in the freezer. It's not really their fault that they're here. They've been here for a long time. But if you don't want them on your property and you want to get rid of them, that's the most humane way to do it. Pop them in the freezer. Now, those venom glands there on the back there, if a predator's trying to eat him, what he'll do is he'll start excreting some poison from there. Now, I'll just put the glasses on so it doesn't go in my eyes, but I'll just give you a little bit of a demonstration on what happens when the venom comes out. My glasses don't fog up because the humidity here at the moment is about 70%. Here we go. Give them a little bit of a squeeze here. You might see some of that venom come out. Oh, see it actually shoots out like that. He's not real happy about that. So there we go. Tommy the toad. We'll release him back out in the bush here. There we go. Hope that didn't go on the lens. Alright, these are a bit bigger ones, aren't they? Woo! Thanks for joining us here on Awesome Animals TV. Keep it wild, and I'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching. Let's help protect, look after and promote Mother Nature together. Don't forget to tune in next week. Thanks for watching. Let's help protect, look after and promote Mother Nature together.
Join us on our next adventure and see you next time.